So in this video, agency expert JJ Toothman is going to break down the exact process he used to create an executive assistant using OpenClock, and how you can connect it to Google Workspace, Asana, and Slack to run your operations on autopilot. This talk is actually from our 2026 Web Agency Summit, where he blew my mind on how he set this up. Let's get into it.
I worked with Claude to mix these personalities into one profile that I could recreate in an OpenClaw agent persona. I borrowed the personality from 4 people who don't exist. Again, that pop culture influence on me. The 4 personas are Lucius Fox from the Christopher Nolan Batman films. I wanted his strategic intelligence and systems thinking, the guy who knows how everything just works. Roz, the radio producer from the TV show Frasier, wanted her sharp wit as part of the personality, someone who can runs the show, knows that she's running the show, even though the talent around her or thinks they're the ones doing it. Joan from Mad Men, confidence, institutional read on power, knows the org chart that isn't written down. And then this is going back a few decades, but Hobson, John Gielgud's butler character from the movie Arthur, his restraint and moral clarity says less than you expect and means more. And that's the cocktail I put together, and that's the AI agent that I have. Then I had to connect it to all of our systems. Chief of staff who can't see what's happening isn't a chief of staff, so the integrations are the unglamorous half of the work. That makes all the difference. So there's 3 major buckets. There's actually a lot more integrations, but these are the 3 big ones. It has read access to Google Workspace. It can draft emails for me. It can add events on my calendar. It can understand the situation of a project that we have going by looking in the project folder, the shared project folder on our Google Drive, and also the Asana task management system. It knows what every project is, what every task is, every deadline is, and can access that system of record for what we're actually doing in our service delivery. Another key thing was all the conversations that we're capturing. We use Fathom AI to record our meetings. So all the transcriptions I gave it access to, and understood all the commitments and all the ideas that were coming up in those discussions. The things that we're also awfully typically forgetting about. It was taking those things and remembering them and help convert them into things that don't fall through the cracks. Named her Viv. Onboarded her the same way not in every way. I didn't add it to the payroll system, but we have an onboarding checklist, and I went through most of that onboarding checklist with the agent. So define the role, define daily operational responsibilities. We are a fully distributed, fully remote company. The DNA of our company and the backbone of our company is Slack. So adding this thing into Slack and allowing it to relate to others or connect with others in Slack was completely natural. None of this is a metaphor. This is what actually happened, the same checklist that every other Lone Rock Point hire goes through. So originally, it was just an extra set of hands for me. Created a morning briefing, something that was in my inbox by 7 a.m., what was important for today, what was slipping, what needs my attention specifically. It generates status reports across all of our engagements. It has some oversight responsibilities over our new biz pipeline and some of our biz dev campaigns. It tells me, again, trying to separate that signal from noise. I had this company X account that really wasn't doing anything with for 9 years. I handed it out over to Viv, and Viv runs it now and defines the editorial calendar. I gave it some pillar concepts like, this is what you can talk about, create an editorial calendar out of that. It does the content images generations, it aligns with our brand voice, sends me the editorial calendar, and I have to give it final approval before it can start executing on it. It has some responsibility in proposal management. Are we on track with proposal deadlines and what draft they should be at a certain point in that cycle. So that was the original scope. Then something happened. I started giving it all these powers, and then I realized some of those skills and powers I was giving it would benefit others on the team, and eventually became a teammate supporting everyone, not just me. One of the most useful things Viv does is create stand-up prep briefs. About an hour before our stand-up, we get a briefing of everything that's going on in the company, so when we get together, we can get right into what's critical and what's important, as opposed to just having to catch up and recap everything that's happening across all of our activities. It also is responsible for drafting weekly client status reports. And then I gave it some culture building things. Every Friday, it sends out a list of recommended things to listen to, read. And there's also a weekly wrap up, a thing that it sends out where it gives out a fake award for the most complete. It's almost like the employee of the week type of concept. Whoever has the most completed tasks on the week gets a silly award that doesn't really exist. And again, these are just things that add some personality and add some flavor to our culture, not just productivity. As I mentioned, onboarded her like an employee. She has a dedicated Slack channel. That's where the team can go to ask her things or hand some work. I made it introduce itself. I said, here you are. You're in the company Slack. Say hello to everybody and introduce yourself. I'm not going to do this for you. And like I said, went through that onboarding checklist.
Moral of the story, stop letting unglamorous admin tasks ruin your creative workflow. If you enjoyed this video, you've got to check out the Claude Adobe integration video I just did because it's so freaking cool. Once you have Adobe set up in Claude, you can vectorize logos, edit photos and videos. I mean, you're really only limited by your imagination. So be sure to check it out. My name is Zach Fried. I'll catch you in the next one.